Unit 12, Mergers and Acquisitions, Track 29.
Can you give us an example of an acquisition that has worked really well?
One example of an acquisition that has worked really well is actually the merger between Bank of New York and Mellon Bank, which took place back in 2007. Those two banks had actually, interestingly enough, 8 years earlier, had an unsuccessful attempt at coming together, where Bank of New York had made a hostile attempt to overtake Mellon Bank. However, in the second try, what they did is they understood some of the mistakes from previously. So experience is very important. But most importantly, what they did is they met very early, before the deal became public, and they determined what it was that were showstoppers, things that could derail, that could stop the deal in the future from being successful. And they did determine what those items were very, very early on. Each side put their cards on the table. They identified what those potential problems were very early and said, if we can't get past those problems now, if we can't agree on what those problems are, if we can't agree about how we're going to deal with them once we have merged, then we shouldn't go through with this merger. We want to make sure it's friendly. We want to make sure it's going to be successful. What they then did is, having worked through those showstoppers, those items that might not be successful, they then put together a team from both sides of very, very senior people, ultimately announcing the deal, including the identification of who was going to be running the firm, with about an equal number of people from both sides. Everybody, therefore, knew who their boss was going to be. They knew which businesses were going to be retained. They had some idea as to how the business was going to drive forward. And most importantly, they knew that very deeply engaged in the deal strategy as well as the integration process was the CEO and chairman of the company, who took a very, very public role in identifying what the company was going to be doing post-acquisition.